You don't accept it as for your faith. It's an interesting book.
And for those that don't know, this is the BYOB Sunday podcast, and I'm your co-host Chiko with the host
Yes, sir. Jose Marquez. Let's
in the
go.
building. Let's get it.
We're excited. We're excited today. We're excited about a whole slew of podcasts that we downloaded for you guys on the Enneagram. We hope that you're enjoying it. We got an intro. We got types 1 through 9 with all different sorts of personalities, which was a lot of fun.
You have to go check these episodes out. And if you feel like you're out of the loop, go take the Enneagram test.
Yes.
So you can get an idea of what your number is. So when you listen to the episodes, it makes more sense.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
And you can tell us if it does resonate with you.
And they're free. Like the Enneagram tests are free. The one that I used when I first checked it out was the Enneagram Institute. You go there, you answer about 30 questions, which will take you about 3 minutes less, depending on how honest you are, and stop trying to like, this is what I want to be. Don't answer it by what you want to be. Answer it by what you currently are. And it'll lead you to your number. And when it gives you your number, if you hate what it says about you, that's your type.
Yes. You know what the cool thing about taking the test is, like, if you've taken the love language test, if you've taken any other personality test, it falls in line with it, but it's just deeper.
Yeah,
It goes
yeah.
way deeper. It gives you a little bit more of understanding, and it's not meant to keep you boxed into your number.
Yeah, it's supposed to help you break out of the box that you're already in. And that's what people, we was talking about it before, how being aware is sometimes like a repellent for people. Like you fight that at all costs because it's like old school men that don't want to go to the hospital. Then I know, but because if I go to the hospital, then they're gonna tell me I got this and this and this and this. You already have this and this and this and this. They're just gonna shed a light on it and try to help you get out of it. The Enneagram works the same way. It helps you see you for you, so that you can slowly break out of that and be the best you that you can possibly be.
That's it. That's it. And so I suggest you go check it out.
Yeah. It's been a journey. It's been a ride. And we've been, how long ago were those episodes recorded?
I was looking through YouTube, and it started around 2023, and like,
Well, so it's been about 2 to 3 years that Anna and I started our journey, and we're still learning. We're still reading. We're still studying. We're not certified yet, but that's definitely a goal for 2026. And we're going to get certified so that we can coach people through this journey, because like you said, it's a personality thing. And ultimately, if you have the same skill set as someone else, the only thing that will differentiate you is your personality, how you are with other people. And if you have a firm grip on who you are and you're aware of things, you'll be able to have the personality to get that position, to get that raise, to get that promotion, to get that opportunity to be a blessing to other people, because your personality is just on another level.
and personally, for me, that it opened my eyes a lot. You know, looking back at and uploading these episodes made me want to listen back to some of these episodes, and I was like, wow, like there's things that I need to go back and listen to, because there's things that still need work. There's still things that I need clarity on, and understanding my number at that time was
Yeah.
so like mind blowing. And
I remember like Rafi was
yeah,
in the room. Fernando was sometimes in the room. And when we were sharing these tapes, it was like, yo, that's freaky. Like I remember Rafi, oh, that's freaky. Because he's a type 5. So I'm sure he went home and thought about it for 19 hours, because that's what fives do. And your episode in particular was one of the best episodes in the whole thing, because I mean I hadn't laughed like that during a podcast. When we had Chiko, we had my sister-in-law Roxy, shout out to Roxy, and that was a great episode.
it was epic. It was epic. I personally felt like I was witnessing like that, that moment where you're just like the Spider-Man,
Yeah.
pointing at each other. It's like, yeah, you too. We had a
And I
lot of
found
good
another four that I want to interview, and she has her own story.
ones.
and she's different from you, from you and Roxy. Just like you and Roxy had similarities, there were also various differences. So it's amazing. It's amazing. And that's what I love about the types, that even you can be a 7 as I am, or you can be a 4 as Chico is. But within that 7 and within that 4, there's various flavors. And I like how someone described it in one of the books. They said it's like going to Home Depot and saying you want blue paint. They're going to show you 25 different blue paints,
Hmm.
and you could mix those 25 different blue paints with another paint, and it's going to give you a whole different shade of blue. And that's how the Enneagram is. There's different shades of 7, there's different shades of 4. And the key is to find your shade and be able to give the world the best expression of you.
Facts, facts. So, what do we got for today, man? Let's get into it.
Oh,
We got a lot to talk about,
yes.
and I feel like uh, it's been something where we kind of like either prepare for it,
Mm-hmm.
or like you mentioned when you got here, is something that speaks to you,
Yeah.
and I'm very very excited to hear what you have um, in your heart that God has placed for
Yeah.
today, man.
Our last recent episode, we talked about modern masculinity, and we talked about how it's okay to be weak, because within that weakness is where you find your strength. And we talked about manhood and different things like that. Today's particular subject, I feel it leans more to men than to females, but in today's day, both struggle with this. And it's something called temptation. Temptation. Now, when you hear the word temptation, what does that mean for Chico?
To be honest with you, anytime I hear the word temptation, I think about two things: the movie, that movie where
Was that a Tyler Perry one?
there was a Tyler Perry
It
movie,
was.
Temptation, and then the actual group, the Temptations.
Wow. But the movie, it made you look at Nicole different, right? Like when she acted a certain way, you were like, "Whoa,
that
should I be
movie,
scared?"
that movie was like crazy.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I was like, but it for me, when I think about words, I have images in my head. It's not like I think about the book definition of it. It's
Yeah.
kind of like an image of what
That's good.
temptation looks like, and
That's good.
that movie was a clear definition of like where something that looks good can tempt you and then ultimately lead you down the wrong path. So that's what I
Yes.
think about temptation being like. It's not it's everything that glitter isn't gold, right?
Mm,
Everything is not supposed to be this
I like that.
perfectly wrapped thing. And I think that sometimes we're a lot of times we're drawn to that, and it looks like it's better than what we have. Sometimes ours is already worn, it's already used, and we're just like, oh, I already have it, and that new thing over
Mm,
there looks exciting, so I want to go and check it out. And ultimately it's not always going to be the best thing for you. So that's what comes up to my mind when I hear the word temptation.
oof. I love that. And that's definitely a clip that we have to post up. That is so, so good. And I like how you said, when I think about the word temptation, right? Because I feel like within our audience, all of us have a different scenario, a different moment, a different picture, a different definition when it comes to temptation. When I think about the word temptation, I think about the many, many times, the many, many
Wait,
incidences, and we're stopping.
sorry. Yeah, go ahead. The FaceTime came through on my Mac.
And now we're starting again. When I think about temptation, right, like I think about how the many times I've succumbed to it, the many times I've bowed to it almost and lost a lot, right? But temptation, scripturally, it's both positive and negative, right? When you think about a sword, right? When they make a sword and you see those movies that they make a sword and you see it flaming hot and then they put it inside of the water, that's called tempting. They're tempting the sword. They're tempering the sword. And it means to give it form, to give it shape, to make it stronger. But then we have the negative side of temptation that has to do with lust, that has to do with sinning, that has to do with, all the different things that we might think about when we think about doing somebody else wrong. Because ultimately, sin has to do with how you treat your neighbor. ultimately. And how we treat our neighbor, if I cheat, if I lie, if I steal from, all of these things, all of these different sins begin with a temptation. And there was one of the Lord's apostles or disciples, just happened to be his half brother. His name is James. He said that temptation happens when our lust overcome us, when we give into our lusts. So temptation doesn't necessarily come from the outside. It comes from the inside. So when we're tempted, there's something within us that is requesting us to deal with it.
So, so, because I'm as you speak, I'm thinking like, because there are things that other people may be tempted that doesn't tempt me.
Exactly, because we're all different.
Because yeah, like some people might be women, some people might be just like money, right? Like
Yes.
you can, like somebody leaves money on the table, and you could be tempted to take the money because it's something that you are, you know, attracted to, and you feel like you need it. And that
Yes.
could come from a root of maybe scarcity,
Yes.
greed,
Yes.
and anything that comes with what's attached to that thing that you're tempted.
And that's a great word that you use. He used the word root. It comes from a root, right? And ultimately temptation, some of us go through the same temptations over and over and over and over because we deal with the fruit and not with the root. If you deal with the root, the fruit stops growing. But when you only deal with the fruit, you might be able to not have to deal with it for a season because fruits only grow during certain seasons. But the next time around in your relationship, in your marriage, in your friendships, in whatever the scenario might be, that you find yourself in that same season again, that fruit is going to come right out again. Why? Because the root was never dealt with. And our roots are different. Just like you go into a forest and you see different types of trees. In this world is a forest full of different types of trees. All of the roots are different. We both grew up in the same sort of socioeconomic type status, but we're different. What causes me to fall or to sin is different than what might cause you to fall or to sin. Why? Because our roots are different. But when we're tempted, it's an opportunity. What if we didn't see it as, oh man, I'm still being tempted by this stupid thing? What if instead we saw, man, this is another opportunity that God is giving me to either go right or go left, to either get better or get worse.
That's powerful.
Right? And I was thinking about it. Yeah, maybe I was being tempted yesterday because I was just feeling a certain way, and I was a little bit frustrated, right? I had been with the boys all day, and if you have two kids under two, you feel me. You know exactly what I'm going through. And just a hard day, and I told Anna, go do what you do. And she went with the women of the church, and they had dinner, and it was in Manhattan, and it was a beautiful day to be in Manhattan, and they were chilling in the city. And I was home with my two boys, and my back was already hurting with my lower back issues, and I was just going through and wrestling with that, and almost wrestling with them, and wanting to chokehold them and suplex them and get them to sleep and things of that nature. Because for whatever reason, Caleb didn't want to sleep at all. He didn't want to take any naps all day yesterday. And then I have Izzy crying in the background, look at me, look at me. So that was a battle all day. And then Anna got home, and I was like, she's going to come and worship me for having given her this day and doing all this stuff. And she went right to sleep. Man, so I was frustrated over that. And I'm imagining that that's what unlocked this temptation, right? Because one of the things I learned within my recovery is that we are tempted the most when we fail to halt. HALT. And HALT is an acronym that shows us when we're tempted the most. We're tempted the most when we're H, hungry, when we're A, angry, when we're L, lonely, or when we're T, tired. When we're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired is when we're usually tempted the most. So if you want to be able to resist temptation and be more successful at it, feed yourself when you're hungry, have a good diet. When you're angry, don't ignore it, process your emotions, process what you're really feeling. When you're lonely, try to ask yourself the questions. Why am I lonely? Why am I feeling alone? Why am I feeling this way? And when you're tired, close your eyes. Like Anna tells me, close your eyes and just go to sleep. So when we don't do these things, we find ourselves constantly being tempted. So yesterday, I wasn't hungry. I was a little angry. I was a little lonely, and I was very, very tired. So all of a sudden, the mind starts working, 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 working. And you want to go back to the things you used to do. Mm-hmm. Right? So I got my phone next to me and I got these things next to me. And I'm like, man, I could go backwards a little bit and entertain my temptations. Let me entertain myself. Because that's usually what we do when we're tempted. We entertain ourselves. Yeah. Instead of reaching for purpose, right? Because I could have reached and said, let me read the book I've been working on. Let me see if it needs any edits, if I could add anything to it. Or let me look at my sermons because, I got a few sermon opportunities coming up. Or let me try to meditate. Let me pray a little bit. I could have done any of those things. But no, I'm angry. I'm lonely. I'm tired. So I'm being tempted.
And sometimes in that same aspect, we may look for instant gratification to try to kind of ease that feeling of anger or loneliness, being tired, and
that's so good.
Everything else requires a lot more work.
And we started with the Enneagram.
Yeah.
So for a 7, our greatest motivation is to refuse and resist pain at all costs. We run from pain. We don't want to deal with pain. We don't want to sit in pain. We don't want to do any of that. For a 4, sometimes pain is a fun place to be in.
It's so weird when you say that, right? Because I've always dealt with, why does it take for something bad to happen to me to make me feel the most alive? and it's literally that. Like,
and I feel like I'm being tortured when I'm going through that.
Whenever I've had like a heartbreak in my past, I was like thriving to want to get better, and I did. I felt like I would always like, and then and it was a weird place to be. Like, I would look forward to a heartbreak because I knew that I would jump into a better season in my life whenever that happened.
Yeah.
And when I remember going through the Enneagram, I'm like, no wonder like chaos and pain and like melancholy, like music, is something that makes me feel good. I don't know why.
And it's also that for 4s, they love the beginning of things, the chase of things, the initiation of things, the vision building of things. But the minute you're in it, you're like, oh, this is boring. This is corny. Let me start something else. And you leave things halfway, right?
Yes. And the crazy part, right? When it comes to podcasting, right? One of my biggest battles was, the consistency. It always felt great in the beginning. Like, we restart BYOB, we restart this. And the hardest part was to stay on track. Yes. And that's one of the biggest commitments I have moving forward. 2025, the remainder, and going into 2026 is to see it through with everything else, because that is like instant gratification for a 4 like me to have that beginning. I've noticed that because anybody that I've helped start their own podcast or was in the process of building a podcast with them, I thrived with the beginning. And then when the work of staying
motivated and driven
through, it's the hardest part. And that goes with fitness and everything else in my life. And that's one of my challenges to myself right now, and my commitments is to get through that to be able to overcome that, because I felt like that's always been a struggle for me, and I didn't know why.
And that's
So
why fours are led to the one, because the one, it has that anchor of commitment. I want to do good. I want to be
yeah,
good. I
yeah.
want to do what's right. I want to have a checklist. So they have that
Mm. That
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 yin yang.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I
That's
mean?
that's crazy.
So good. So good. But and that's where temptation, right? The core, we're talking about the root.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's different for an Enneagram 4 than it
Yes.
is for an Enneagram
Yes.
7. It's different for an Enneagram 2 than it is for an Enneagram 8. Different things are going to tempt us because we're rooted in different personality types and rooted in different
Yes.
childhoods and rooted in different weaknesses,
Yes.
different rooted in different strengths. And it's not good or bad. It's
Mm-hmm.
just is.
And when you say now, I'm looking at the word that you asked me what comes to mind when you hear the word temptation, but when you gave that analogy of the sword,
Mhm.
now I'm thinking about the temptation of something also forms you differently. So that is now another image of now I literally see a sword, going through that process,
So good.
and you want to sharpen your sword,
Hmm.
right? So is that something where you should be falling into temptation if it's or
I
do you
wouldn't say
allow temptation to
falling,
form
I
you?
would say processing it.
Okay.
Instead of judging it
Mm-hmm.
and laying down a sentence of good or bad, be a scientist and explore it. Create a hypothesis. Am I being tempted because of this, or am I being tempted because of this? Is this what's leading me to temptation, or is this what's leading me to temptation? The last time I succumbed to this temptation and knelt to it was this was the result. Could I do to create a different result? Begin to investigate it, begin to process it, begin to wrestle with it, because ultimately
Yeah.
that is going to lead you to better answers than just saying this is wrong, this is bad, because all of a sudden now you're condemning yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the Apostle Paul writes in Romans, one of the letters that he wrote to the city of Rome, Romans chapter 8, he says, there is no condemnation for those that are in Christ. So why am I feeling condemned? Because I'm judging something instead of investigating something.
I like that. Another thing that comes to my mind is um, social media, right? I think that it's also a way to, if you're questioning what are those things and why are some things tempting to you, you also can reflect that on your algorithm,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like, is like your algorithm, what you stop and watch will come back and continue
Oh,
to
my
show up
gosh.
in your life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
a lot of the times you realize that that's that's one of those temptations I have in my life, right? Because it's not like I'm acting on it or doing anything, but if it's constantly showing up in my algorithm, that means that I'm constantly taking the time to look at it,
Oh,
whether it's good or
yes.
bad, right?
Yes.
Like whether it's forming me or it's or I'm falling or succumbing to this temptation.
Yes.
It's one of the two are showing up, and
Yes.
and your algorithm is telling, because
So good.
when you look at that, you can see it and be like,
I'm going on Instagram, and when you go on
yeah,
the
the
little,
for you.
what's this one?
That's the
This
for you. That's
when
the
you go on the little
yep,
For You app, and what you see there,
yep.
and I love it at the moment. Like I'm seeing the Knicks, I'm seeing bookshelves, and I'm seeing memes on the Enneagram, and I'm seeing things on the Bible and on leadership. But there was a time that it was half naked women, that it was couple stuff, that it was this sort of
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
So
yep,
you
yep,
want to
yep.
see where you at right now? You don't gotta go far. You don't need a prophet to come. Thus
That's
save
a
the
mirror.
Lord.
That's a mirror right
Go
there.
on your For You. And if you're a Facebook user, right, you're a little bit older, go on Watch.
Yes.
You go on Watch, it's going to show you all these videos,
Mm-hmm.
because those videos are based on the algorithm of what you've been searching for, what you've
Yes.
been liking, what you've been going through, and social media is, in that sense, it might be good,
Mm-hmm.
because all of a sudden it begins to show you where you're at now, not where you pretend to be,
Mm-hmm.
but where you are,
That right
because
there, where you
that's an issue.
pretend. Yes.
That's an issue.
Yes.
And that's where we're also tempted sometimes. We're also tempted because we want to be somewhere that we're not. So the temptation arises to take the shortcut there. So when you see
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
temptation again, is this a shortcut or is it a fork on the road? Is it a signpost? Is it telling you stop? Is it telling you go? Is it telling you yield? Or is it telling you proceed? But you don't know any of these things if you immediately say good, bad. No. And even when you think about the story of humanity's origins in this Old Testament book called Genesis, it just means seed or beginnings. So when you go to the beginning book of this book called the Bible, Sunday BYOB, bring your own Bible. So when you bring your own Bible and you open up your own Bible to the book of Genesis, there's this story of Adam and Eve. There's 2 trees. God says you can eat anything here except for this one tree. And the one tree just happened to be the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Right next to this tree, maybe you saw this tree here, and where the balloons are, you saw another tree, the tree of life. You could have continuously eaten from the tree of life and just lived forever. But no, it's always been within us to know good and evil. So Adam and Eve eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So when we're tempted and we say good or bad, good or evil, we're still eating from the tree God never wanted us to eat from. Because you can see something good today, in 10 years, it'll be evil for you because you've grown. You're in a different place. You're in a different space. You're with a different person. So what served you in one season isn't necessarily going to serve you in another season. What served you 10 years ago might enslave you today. But if you're eating from the knowledge of good and evil, you're going to measure it or interpret it the way you did 10 years ago. But if you're eating from the tree of life, the question you're going to ask yourself is it producing life to me today? Is it helping me today? So that's the question you should be asking yourself. Is this going to serve me today or enslave me today? Is it giving me life? And for a 4, that's easy to tap into. And I think for a 7 as well. Is this giving me life? Is it lifting me up? Is it causing me to be better? Right? And I think, the book of Genesis in particular is just full of all of these stories of people that were tempted along their journey and what they did with that temptation, what they did when they were encountered or came face to face with that temptation.
Would that fall in, an area like when the story of Adam and Eve, is that something that can be taken into like something that really happened, or like a metaphor that
It depends on who you speak to. There are what's called what was Darwin's theory? There's evolutionary theologians that believe in evolution, but that God was the one whose hand was leading evolution. There's literal translators who just read it. Yes, there was one person, and that one person, the whole world was created in 24-hour days, which I don't ascribe to. I think that's literally impossible. Physiologically, physics wise, I think just it's impossible. I think it's impossible. I don't think it was literal 24-hour days. I think it was spans of days that occurred, but that's another podcast for a different day. I do think that the first human was named Adam because Adam simply means man and Eve simply means woman. So it's like that's just the literal names of the people. But when you have Adam and Eve and they sin, and now all of a sudden it says, when you go out, this is what's going to happen. Then they have children, Cain and Abel. When Cain kills Abel, he says, now I'm going to be killed. I'm going to be murdered. But murdered by who? If Cain and Abel were the first children mentioned in scripture. There were other. So what I think is when God says, I will create Adam, when he says, I will create man, I think he literally meant humanity. I will create humanity.
And that makes sense. And it's just a sidebar question, because
Look at Chiko got me talking theology.
Because it's like I question these things, right?
Yeah.
And it's like,
And I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, when you watch a movie, right? There's other people in the movie. There's just a protagonist.
Yes.
That we're focusing around.
Yes.
And I feel like that there's many parts in the Bible that are gonna lock in on this person for the story, but it doesn't exclude the fact that there were others, right?
Exactly.
They just weren't the main character of this story.
Yes.
And I feel like that could have been the case in that story of Adam and Eve.
It's so good because that can be a temptation. Someone could read that story, have a question, and be tempted to say, okay, if this is a lie, then everything else is a lie. Or you could be tempted to say, if this is the truth, then everything else is the truth. You have an option, right? But it's in a way that's also a temptation that can lead you one way or another. And I think the book of Genesis is full of these sort of temptations. You got Adam and Eve. Yesterday, I was meditating on a guy named Joseph, who's in the book of Genesis. The very first book in chapter 39 is a story about when he's tempted, right? He had just been sold by his brothers into slavery because they hated on him for his dream. Joseph is called the dreamer. How many dreamers are hearing this podcast right now? Chico's a 4. Like, he literally lives in a dream state because that's what 4s are like. Joseph was a dreamer, and he shared these dreams with the wrong person. His brothers. Don't share your dreams with the wrong person because they could flip on you. So they flipped on him. They sold him into slavery. He's purchased by this man named Potiphar, who was a high-ranking official in the Egyptian court. And in those days, if you was a high-ranking official, your wife was wow. Because you chose your wife. You went to this group, this place, and you saw all of these women, and you said, okay, if I like the hips, that's gonna be mine. If I like the thinner one, that's gonna be mine. If I like tall, that's mine. If I like short, that's mine. If I like good eyes, that's mine. Like, you had your pick of the litter, per se, or you could pick the wife that you wanted because you had this position. So again, Potiphar purchases this boy named Joseph, who's a dreamer, who's physically fit because they were shepherds. Like, you were always hiking, you were always moving, you were always cutting your shepherd. So you were cut up. You lived in the desert, so you were always sweating. You were fit. The Bible says he was handsome in appearance. He's sold to this household of Potiphar, and Potiphar has this amazing looking wife. When Joseph comes in, she puts her eyes on him. She says, I want that. I want me some Joseph. Can you imagine Joseph having just been sold by his brothers, feeling entitled to some sort of comfort, feeling entitled to some sort of, I deserve this. You ever felt that? Like, yo, I deserve this. And that's how you feel when you're tempted. Like, I deserve to do this because I've went through all this. I deserve this because I'm hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. I deserve this. But Joseph went the opposite way. It says that when she continuously came to him and said, I want you, let's do this. No one's going to know. We could do this when Potiphar's in the court. No one's ever going to know. It says that Joseph continuously refused her. So there's an opportunity when you're tempted to refuse that temptation, to refuse the negative side of the temptation and say, nah, I'm better than that. I'm a higher being than that. I'm pursuing my dreams. I can't do that. I got a dream. God gave me a dream. God told me what I could be.
Good and evil.
Good and evil. I refuse that. Or life and death. I'm going to eat from life. I'm going to eat from life. That's what I want. Is this going to give me life? And Joseph continuously refused her. And he told her, bro, he was like, your husband made me the ruler of his whole household. The only thing he said I can't have is you. And Joseph said, how am I going to sin against God by taking you? The one thing he said I can't have. Garden of Eden. He just told them one thing you can't have.
Full circle.
But then she kept on. She kept on even after he was refusing her. She had no shame. She kept on. And then the next thing that Joseph does is resist her. He says, no, I can't have you. So it says that he started avoiding her.
And that's powerful, because that alone, sometimes we lean into our temptation, right? We don't, like Joseph, we don't avoid those things. When we're bored, we get entertained by those things. We lean into that, and that right there is just avoiding those things, or
Yes.
looking at something else that can give you life. Like, hey, go to the gym, right? Go read a book,
Yes.
right? Go pray. Go like
meditate.
You said, just do something that can be productive in your life and can put you in the path of purpose versus,
the path of pain.
Yeah.
Purpose or pain.
Because it looks like it's going to be pleasurable, but it can be the root of the pain that you're going to experience down the line.
Yes. And I love that. It's like money. You can pursue money because of purpose. You need money for purpose. Or you can pursue money and it leads you to pain because the love of money is the root of all evil.
And that's where you feel the most empty.
And bam, it's there. Temptation.
And I did have a question, and I'm going to ask it now. I wanted to leave it for our rapid fire question segment, but it's a struggle for I think most dads, I can say for me, you come to a realization, can you be successful and be a good parent? Like, can you chase something, with like a dream or just like success and still be a good parent or do the things that you believe good parents can do? Because I feel like that is,
I love that,
hard.
And I love that you asked me, because truth be told, I have the same battle at times where I'm like, I need to read, I need to be in God's word, I need to pray in order to be the best preacher that I can possibly be. But I think the question should not be, can I do this and still do all of this? I think the ultimate question is, how do I define success? How do I define success? Do I define success by Steve Jobs? Do I define success by Elon Musk? Do I define success by whatever entertainer might be out there? Or is success for me being able to live out my God-given purpose, bringing with me my family, bringing with me my children? Because is success for me giving my sons and my daughter an image of a godly man that also has these ventures that he's successful in? Or is success for me going at it alone, leaving everybody behind, and them growing up without a father?
That's what it feels like. You hear the stories,
Oof,
right? You hear
something
the stories
just came to me
of what people deem successful, and they're like, you literally have to become a bad parent because you can't do both, right? And you have to choose one or the other. And it's like, when you hear those things, you're like, I don't want to do that, because now it's like, who's gonna be the influence of my son when I'm not around, because I'm out here trying to quote unquote be successful for him.
That's so good.
For my wife. Like, how do you pursue those things and still pour into your family when it feels like you have to leave them behind to go and become this or do that?
I unfortunately had to learn it the hard way, because in my first marriage, unfortunately, I thought success was, and this was all that was poured into me, success was getting to the highest heights in ministry and getting to the peak of what you can possibly be in the ministry context. So unfortunately, my children had to be sleeping under the benches of a church because our Sunday service was from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Unfortunately for me, success back then was going to service Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday was an off day. if you were in the peaks of ministry, because and Saturday you usually used it to be with your family and other people from the church, because you had to also make those connections, and then Sunday you were back at it again. And I reached the highest peaks of ministry. I was the youth and Christian education director of regionally for my denomination, and I held that position in my 20s.
Mm.
But unfortunately, what my children's vacations ended up becoming was, if I was invited to preach in Washington, I brought my family along. We went to the Smithsonian Saturday morning, but Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, they went to 3 services with me because I had to hit all the churches in that region
Wow.
on that weekend. So I forfeited my opportunity to be what God wanted me to be, which was a man of God who was an example to his children by loving them and being there for them. I forfeited that. So today, none of my 3 oldest children want anything to do with God.
And
So was I successful? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
wow. And I was just gonna ask that because you can tell that there's many kids that grew up with celebrity parents that hate
Who are
hate
usually the
fame.
biggest knuckleheads at times? PKs, pastors' kids. Why? Because as a pastor, we're defining success the wrong way. How does the Bible define success? By I will be a blessing to your children's 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 children, by leaving a godly legacy. But that can't happen if you're not home.
That's it. Like, and I mean,
So I
take
succumbed
that.
to the
Yeah.
temptation
Yeah.
of power.
There you go.
We don't want to admit it, but pastors, come on. You see TD Jakes and you see the
Yeah.
the rich Wilkersons and the different people doing their thing, and you succumb to the temptation of power. I could do that. I got a better revelation than them. I just got to do what they're doing. So a lot of times what you end up doing is sacrificing best for better. Sacrificing your children. Because think about this, your ministry doesn't ever carry your last name.
Mm-mm.
So how can they carry your legacy?
And that goes with everything else,
Bro.
right? Because I can be the successful podcaster or this successful insurance agent, whatever it is that I pursue and want to get to the pinnacle and success. And that's only going to be something that I'm going to carry until I die.
Yes.
Doesn't necessarily mean that's going to carry over to my kids.
Yes.
What they carry on is what experience I gave them in life or allowed them to experience, and what experience will they remember if I was never there to give them an experience. And it doesn't come with me being able to afford everything to them and give them everything they ask for, because eventually that fades away. And then when they ask them who was your dad, they may not even know that.
Yes.
They're just gonna know that dad gave me what I wanted, but I don't know who he is.
Yes.
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 And that's the struggle. And sometimes you feel like that's the sacrifice I'm gonna have to do to get to the top. And there's so many days where I'm like, I just can't see myself to want to make that sacrifice. And if that's gonna deem me less successful, I'm gonna have to live with that.
Yes.
And there's a part of you that you're gonna have to like mourn that, like, because that is part that could be part of your dream, right? There are parts of our dreams that we're gonna mourn at some point, because you realize that that dream might have not been or might not be what's gonna fill you, you know. And what I think about what's gonna fill me is I want my son to look at me the way that I looked at my father or other people that had influence in my life. And I'm like, how can I be that if I'm not present? Right? How can I be that? And I get it, money is important. Money affords you many things, but there are seasons that you will never get back.
Exactly. And on a deathbed, when someone is on their deathbed, you very rarely hear them say, man, I wish I had 1 more hour of overtime. Man, I wish I could have bought this 1 more house. No, usually what they say is, I wish I had more time for my kids. I wish I had more time for my wife. I wish I had more time for my parents.
wish I had more time for God.
I wish I had more time for God. I wish I had one more prayer. I wish I had one more this. That's what they usually say. See, and success that doesn't outlive you, is it really success? If it dies with you, were you successful?
And were you just chasing this facade, this temptation that you thought was going to lead you into, the ultimate happiness?
Yes.
And
And
brought pain.
was it? And I like how you say temptation.
Yeah.
It's good, but it has that flip side of being bad, which is what life is. Everything that is good in your life is like a coin, heads or tails. If you flip it on the other side, there's your temptation. There is that struggle. There is that wrestling that you have within yourself. And all of us have it. I want to be a great dad. If I flip that, is the absent dad that does everything for himself, that seeks his own thing, that wants to do it his way, right? So everything has a flip side. We're doing this sick for you guys, y'all. See, but that's when temptation comes, right? So this man Joseph, and going back to his story, he refused her, he resisted her, but when that wasn't enough, it says that she grabbed him. One day she grabs him. And he must have been coming out of the shower or something, because it said that when she grabbed him, she grabbed his coat and he ran away naked. But look what it says. He ran.
Yes.
There's sometimes you're going to have the fortitude to be able to refuse. There's other times you're going to have the strength to be able to resist. But sometimes you just going to have to run.
3 R's. The last one is, it messes with your ego.
Oh, I love that, Chiko. I didn't even think about that side.
It messes with
Oh,
your ego.
yes. Oh, yes. Because
You might wanna
if
stand.
you run, you're admitting that you're weak. But when you're weak, check out our last episode, is usually when you find out how strong you really are.
That's it. Because men especially never want to run away from
Oh, no. We want to confront things. We want to fight things. We want to do things that way, which is where anger comes up from, right? Anger comes up when you're still fighting, you're still struggling, you're still battling, you're still arguing, you're still trying to do things your way. But when you're weak, you admit that anger is truly sadness not being dealt with. But what man wants to admit, oh, I'm sad? Right? When you think, you never hear a man saying, I'm sad, I'm lonely, I'm hurting,
I'm mad, I'm frustrated.
But that's where it begins,
annoyed.
right?
Yeah.
It's sadness, and then when you don't process the sadness, it begins to come surface level. But and then it's frustration, and then it's loneliness. But by the time it gets to the surface where it's being shown to other people, it's anger. See, but anger in today's world is celebrated.
Because think about it. When you cry, that's a way to release the sadness.
Yeah.
It makes you feel better.
Yeah.
But what happens is the outside looks at you and says, men don't cry.
Yeah. So I'm going to be angry and I'm going to make somebody else cry for me.
And that's going to make me a man.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to run.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to run.
That's okay. And that's okay.
And listen, it doesn't feel the greatest.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel the greatest when you run away from something, but it may save you down the line. It may give you life.
Yes.
Instead of death.
And sometimes when you run, you live to fight another day. Sometimes when you run, you might not necessarily have overcome that temptation in a positive way, but you live to fight another day. And that's exactly what happened with Joseph. He was able to live to fight another day. Ultimately, he was put in jail for something he didn't do, because the woman said he tried to touch her, he tried to rape her, which we see happening a whole lot in today's world. And, he's put in jail, but in jail, he finds favor with the warden, and the warden puts him in charge of everyone that's in jail. And he was able to interpret two people's dream while he was in jail, because he was still a dreamer.
And I love when you, because what like my brain just traveled into what would have happened if he would have fallen in temptation. I don't think he would have fallen in any purpose.
No.
Because if you notice that, because he refused, he resisted, and he ran, he was still, any place he was placed, he would still find purpose, or he would still be placed in some sort of like power
Yes.
within what he's here to do. I think that a lot of us don't find those things because we keep falling into those temptations that are
So good.
leading us further away.
So good.
He would have fallen into temptation. It would have put him in a place of danger. And
Yes.
he probably would have been dead.
So good. There was a king in the history of Israel named Solomon. Solomon wrote a book called Proverbs. And Proverbs begin by saying these are the sayings of David that he gave to his son Solomon. So there's a book that we still read in the Bible called Proverbs that are literally the sayings or the advice that a father gave to his son. One of those proverbs says, your gift will make room for you in the company of great men. So when you know that you've been given a dream, you know that you're gifted, just have faith in the God who gave you that gift and who gave you that dream, that he will in his own way and in his own time make it come to pass. See, David's only dream was to take care of sheep. There was a king named David, the greatest king in all of Israel. That was his dream, to be the best at taking care of sheep. But because he was great at taking care of sheep, God put him in a position of taking care of people. Be great where you are. Be happy where you are. Be satisfied and fulfilled where you are. Be faithful where you are. Right? Jesus taught, if you're faithful in little, God will give you much.
Amen. Today's conversation definitely led
Yay.
many ways, but it's still back to that
Yes.
that core, that root.
And one of the most famous, and we could probably end with this, one of the most famous sayings in all the Torah, or what Christians call the Old Testament, is I put before you life and death. Choose life so that you may live. When we're tempted, he's putting before us life and death. We have the ability to choose. Let's choose life, y'all. And ultimately that leads to what I believe is choosing Jesus, who said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. Choose me so that you may live.
Let's get it. Listen, share this episode with someone you love.
I think it's a good one. I
This
think
is
it's a good
great
one.
I think that this episode should travel to anyone and everyone
Yes.
in your phone book.
Yes.
So send this episode out.
Yes.
Share it forward. Bless someone. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate every
Thank you
single
guys.
listener.
Thank you guys.
And we look forward to connecting, engage with us online. If you
Let us know how we could do better. Let us know what you want us to talk
feedback.
about. All of that, all of those things help. And a very free way, like we don't ask for money. We don't ask for gifts. All that we ask is that you subscribe, because when you subscribe, you tell the world that this is a podcast worth hearing. You tell the world this is a podcast worth sharing, and it's free. Subscribing is free. It costs you nothing but a little touch. So if we've touched you, help us touch others by touching that subscribe button.
There you have it.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Woo! Yo. None of that is written, bro. That's wild. Like none of that was written. None of the questions. The stuff you shared was incredible.